will learn about crime and mental disorders. It is not always that the suspect of the offender might be having mental disorder in every case, but we'll discuss about the cases where offender was found to be having any mental disorder. So I am today diving into a fascinating and sensitive topic. It's on crime which led due to mental disorder. So now, when we think of crime, we often imagine that it is cold, it is calculated, it is organized, maybe out of rage or disorganized. Yes, but what happens when a mental illness enters the picture? What happens if the person is not really in the control of his or her behavior? What happens when the person is in his or her delusion and then he or she does the crime? Yes. So it is often seen that mental illness is a stigma, that people assume that every people who have like mentally ill people or people who are having mental disorders are always dangerous. So that is not true. It is not always that mental people with mental disorders will always do a crime. Okay, let's move further. So let's talk about, are crime and mental illness connected? Okay. So, what exactly in Indian society we can see that there are IPCs for insanity. Let's say IPC 84, Indian Penal Code. Yes, it's right that now it is BNS, but I would like to discuss about the IPC. That in IPC section 84, act of a person of an unsound mind. So we don't call a mental illness, but as a law, but it is called as unsound mind. So it is defined as nothing is an offense which is done by a person who at the time of doing it by reason of unsoundness of mind and is incapable of knowing the nature of the act, or that he is doing what is either wrong or contrary to law, which basically means that if a person's mental condition was such that they couldn't understand or they were not in touch of reality when the crime was done, or if the person doesn't know that what he or she is doing is wrong, but it should be proven that while the act the person was in not his sense or not in a sound mind. Okay, so here are some questions we can discuss upon. If you like, we can discuss this question such as, can mental illness cause someone to commit a crime? Yes, we will discuss this question in further PPT. But as such, if you are having any questions more of, you can write in the chat box. Okay. So IPC 84, 85, 86 are the laws in India, IPC Indian Penal Code, which defines that how a person is go through trial for the unsound mind. So there are different laws for people who are going through a mental illness, particular mental illness. Not every spectrum of mental illness is being counted under this law, but it is well defined in IPC 84, 85, and 86. Please, you can read if you would like more knowledge about it. Okay. So, what does the law exactly say? In 1983, it defined four categories. Okay, mental illness, psychopathic disorder, mental impairment, and several mental impairment. Sorry, mental impairment. In 1983, the four boxes were created. Like as I mentioned, and it is you can see in the PPT that there were four categories. But in 2007, it was redefined that any disorder or disability of mind was considered as uh, if the crime was done by any a person who with any disorder or disability of mind. So it in through the years, the definition of mental illness changed drastically, as when we find out that there were many disorders where a person could have known what he or she is doing. So different definitions change throughout the years. Okay. So, which exactly disorders are mostly linked to crime? Here we are not talking that about the law, that how a trial is going on. For example, first we discussed about that if the person is in unsound mind, the person might be having a lesser punishment. But now we are shifting towards a spectrum where it is not the law doesn't exactly include each and every disorder which I'll be talking in this. For example, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, personality disorders, and many more. This is not included in law, but we are discussing just to know what is the psychology or the psych behind the crime. What exactly happens when people with these disorders do crime? Okay, I'll repeat again. The law doesn't include these disorders that they will be given any lesser punishment. It is not included. Okay, this disorders or this mental illness are not included. We are discussing just to have a overview that how a crime profiling is done, or a mental autopsy of a person who is offending the crime is done. Okay, am I audible? Okay, thank you. Okay, there are many mental health conditions, mental illnesses, which are mostly unidentified, which which has a spectrum. Let's say if there is a schizophrenia, we don't know exactly what is the origin, so we are not able to pinpoint a person who is suffering from schizophrenia at the start. But yes, if it is elongated, or it is in a high intensity, we can go to a psychologist or a doctor which can clinically prove that the person is having schizophrenia. But what exactly happens in India, that due to our biasness, due to some stereotypes, let's say voodoo, these disorders are mostly considered as someone is being possessed. So these disorders, we as in rural areas, even in urban areas, some urban areas, people don't consider this as disorder. But this some kind of disorders such as schizophrenia are considered as if someone is under any ghost, if the person is having any kind of influence of a ghost, maybe the person मतलब चुड़ैल चुड़ैल है चुड़ैल चढ़ गई है, some that kind of, that if like jinn hai, there is many kind of ghost stories that is related to this kind of disorders. I hope I got the point, people. Okay, so now let's be clear that most people with these conditions may or may not commit crime, but in forensics, in prison population, these disorders are mostly diagnosed. Most of the criminals are being diagnosed by this kind of disorders. So we have to find, we have to consider that not 100% population with this disorder will commit crime, but yes, the criminals who are already convicted, most of them are diagnosed with this kind of disorders. Let's say schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, personality disorders like antisocial, borderline, psychopathy, substance use disorders, impulse control, or sexual disorders. It doesn't justify the crime that they have committed, but yes, they we can see as a mental spectrum, a mental illness spectrum. Okay, so let's talk about our first mental illness, schizophrenia. Do anyone of you know what is schizophrenia? Or have you ever heard of schizophrenia or any offender who was suffering from schizophrenia and have committed crime? Yes, if you don't know, you can write in the chat box so I can know that if people don't know about it. Okay, thank you. Okay, so schizophrenia has a big spectrum. What I am telling you right now, the information I am giving, thank you so much, Abhik. Okay, what information I am giving you right now is a baseline information. So there should not be any kind of biasness. But yes, schizophrenia has a big spectrum. So basically, the symptoms of schizophrenia are hallucination, delusion, disorganized thoughts. So, what exactly happens that, let's say, for example, if a person uh, who is using a VR, okay, virtual reality, the glasses of virtual reality, okay. So, I am explaining what exactly mental state of a person suffering from schizophrenia goes through. Let's say the person is wearing a VR and the real virtual reality is ongoing something different. He or she is not able to see what exactly real world, what is happening in the real world, as well as his or her senses are sensed same as a virtual world. Okay, we are wearing VR, but we can sense our world. But here, what happens? The person with schizophrenia, they can sense. They sense so much that they can feel if their skin is burning up, if they are having any itching, which in reality or which in medical condition there is nothing going on. There is no evidence of the person having any sensation. Let's say if the person with schizophrenia is complaining that he is able to see some person beside him, but in reality no one is able to see the person. Only the person with schizophrenia is able to see a person, maybe a ghost, maybe some kinds of objects. Okay, so this is called hallucination. They hear voices, they see, they have strange beliefs, they have disorganized thoughts, such as, for example, the patient might be complaining that uh, I am in danger because aliens will attack me, aliens will come for me, aliens will take me away. I am very much insecure. These kinds of complaint we see in a person with schizophrenia. Even people with schizophrenia also complain that my neighbor will kill me. My neighbor is in an secret or spy. Maybe the person will attack me anytime. So this kind of things or this kind of complaints can be heard from a patient with schizophrenia, which in reality is not true. Okay. So people actually lose touch with reality. And why exactly this happens, which is really a mystery, but let's say if your subconscious mind is a dump yard, you put your unresolved emotions unknowingly in your subconscious mind. And it is getting dumped, it is getting dumped, and it is getting dumped your entire life. If the dump yard is not being cleaned, if the dump yard is not being emptied, then it is overflowed, which affects your memory, which affects your consciousness, and then you lose touch with reality just to overcome your emotions, which were already dumped in your subconscious mind. Okay, do I get the point, guys? Are you getting me what I'm trying to explain? Okay, okay, thank you. So, schizophrenia can be related with substance use. People who use substance, who do substance abuse, alcohol, let's say ganja, let's say any kind of drugs, they have high possibility of having schizophrenia. Yes, Burari case. Yes, we can say Burari case. The person who was you can see the movie. It was explained in the movie. Sorry, series. Tamanya Bhatia was the police officer in that. So you can see that the person who guided everyone was actually having schizophrenia, but we're not able to know. We were only able to predict because the person wasn't present. or the people who knew him, who contacted him, who were near to him also died in the case. So it was only a prediction that the person who committed the crime, or let's say who suicided, might be having a schizophrenia. Yes, it is a possibility. Okay, if schizophrenia in children, it can be due to abuse, substance abuse. Okay, I haven't seen children under 6 years of age. As per my knowledge, as per my research, as per, you can say, whatever I've seen, I haven't seen any children under 10. So I have seen children as such who are in ninth standard, 10th standard. Yes. So what exactly happens, I am telling what exactly happens, which is not exactly scientifically proved. But yes, when the person is not able to resolve their emotions, the mind, to protect your mind, the mind dumps it in the subconscious mind. Okay, I'm talking about unresolved trauma, emotions. It can be due to social no social support. It can be due to uh, the culture. It can be due to the area where they are living, they are not having any mental health awareness. Yes, that can happen. Okay, what can be reason of okay, I just Shailendra, I hope I got the point. Okay, Dipanshu, uh, glue sniffing. Yes, glue sniffing. It is not a reason. See, not every person who abuses drugs or do some kind of nasha, you say, let's say smelling the whitener, or smelling some kind of phenyl or anything. Not every person will get schizophrenia, but yes, the people who are doing this kind of addiction, as well as the emotions of the person are not being resolved, and they are getting dumped into the subconscious mind, which we don't know how much dump they have been taken. Okay, how much dump a subconscious mind of a person have taken. So we cannot calculate. It is uh, beyond our calculation. So this can, the reason I am telling that why schizophrenia happens is very much the reason, but it is not scientifically proven, because we cannot calculate how much emotion dump has there been in the subconscious mind. Okay, so risk of violence can be increased if the person is not in touch with the reality, and he or she is having tall claims. We call tall claims, or unrealistic claims, like someone is going to kill me, someone is there to someone will take me away, or I am in danger. This kind of uh, things make the person with schizophrenia insecure. They might they might kill someone out of self defense, they might kill someone out of insecurity. But we know, the people who are in touch with reality know that it is not real. Okay, so have you heard of son of Sam? Son of Sam? Yes, people. I'll write in the chat box, son of Sam. Son of Sam, we'll discuss further, obviously. But if you want to know that how exactly a person with schizophrenia does a crime, you can check out the case. It was not from India, it was out of India. Yes. Okay, let's move further with another. Okay, yes, son of Sam, I have already put yes. So son of Sam, David, David, the person with schizophrenia, he was diagnosed afterwards that he did crime, or he did kill few people just because a dog told him to do so. Also, there are many cases as Kelsey. So Kelsey actually shot two people uh, like out of fear or out of self defense, and later Kelsey was found naked, standing in his own house. So this was a case of paranoid schizophrenia. He was not in touch with the reality. Even Leon, who killed his flatmate during a paranoid delusion. So while he was having a let's say a phase where there are phases for a schizophrenia, that get uh, they get hallucinations or delusions, that time they are not in touch with reality and they can perceive any real person as a danger. So Leon killed his flatmate. So these are some cases which you can look up to if you want to go through schizophrenia and how exactly people with schizophrenia act out. Okay, we'll talk about bipolar disorder. So anyone have heard about bipolar disorder? Yes, anyone? No, yes. Okay, Dipanshu, that's really nice. Okay, Prerna, yes. Okay, so bipolar disorder is a disorder where a person has a time frame where a person is both in mania, as in high levels of energy, and depression. So it has a time period. Let's say for 2 to 3 months, a person might be in very high intensity of emotions, and for next 2 to 3 months, the person might be in a state where he or she is in a depression, very low mood. So this happens in a form like 2 to 3 months mania, 2 to 3 months depression, again 2 to 3 months mania, again 2 to 3 months depression. So it is a phase. So it is called bipolar. Okay. So in mania, what exactly happens? In a manic episode, we can tell in 2 to 3 months, when a person is going through a manic episode, they might feel that they are on top of the world. Their dopamine levels are very high. They are in very adrenaline, you can say adrenaline rush, or they can lead to a very impulsive acts. Okay, where in depression episode, depression causes them to be very low, slow moving, suicidal. Yes, so this happens because there are a drastic change in their hormones, drastic change in their biochemistry of the human being. This is the origin, or let's say why this happened is still unknown. Okay, they too in bipolar, the patients with bipolar, they too loses touch with reality. Sometimes, like if the intensity of the bipolar disorder is very high, the person might lose touch with reality. Same in every disorder or every illness, a mind is trying to protect himself. That's why the person loses touch with reality, so that the person does not feel any emotions. Do you understand, people, that why our body is defending ourselves? Whenever there is it is an extreme level. Okay, whenever there is an extreme level, a person is not able to resolve their emotions, the mind tries to protect it by losing touch with reality or by dumping it in subconscious mind. But at the same time, subconscious mind also fills up. Okay, so after, if the subconscious mind, as we can say, it is a trash bag, if it is filled up, there is no place to keep your unresolved emotions. So what mind will do, it will lose the connection with the world, so the person might not feel anything. Yes, people, can you get my point? Okay, so we can see, and there is an example, there are two cases we can see that bipolar is mostly seen in females. Okay, but there is no such scientific proofs that only females get. But yes, a male can also get a bipolar disorder. So there was a mother who stabbed her children and family during a manic episode. So when she was in a she was not diagnosed as bipolar because it is very much you can say people don't exactly observe, or maybe there is a lack of mental illness like awareness. Okay, mental illness awareness is so less that a person who is living beside us, who is going through some kind of emotional override or emotional roller coaster, family is not able to see. Sometimes, most of the time, the female is going through such kind of uh, let's say emotional breakthroughs. Still we don't see, or we don't perceive, but we tell them that you are, maybe you are having mood swings, maybe you are having any kind of, we we usually do that because of our biasness, because of our stereotypes, or because what society taught us. But yes, I hope everyone in their families would take care of their loved ones, their mental health. Okay, So I'm not telling every person in your family, every lady, every woman might be having such kind of disorders, but yes, the first point of disorder is when a person is been unseen, the person is been not paid attention in the family. And we can see that it is mostly our mothers who work whole day, but we don't consider their mental health. Okay, yes, I'm not telling everyone, every family does so, but yes, most of the family in our Indian system does so. Okay, so what happened that a mother, she was going through a bipolar disorder episode where she was in a maniac episode. As I've explained, maniac is an heightened of the emotions, heightened of impulsivity. Out of impulse, she stabbed her own children, and she was not able to recollect what exactly she did. Later, she was been convicted, but she didn't knew why exactly she did or what exactly she did. Okay. Then again, we can see there was a woman who killed her ex husband and dismembered the body. Okay. The crime now was not just impulsively killing, but it was also dismembering the body of the ex husband. So, a maniac episode is not just limited to any seconds, but it is limited to 1 day, 2 day of heightened emotions. Yes, I told earlier that maniac episodes live till 1 month or 2 months, but there are fluctuation in the emotions. So the heightened emotion at the heightened level, it can go to 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, or maybe 1 to 2 days. So this happened. This kind of crime also happens. So as a forensic aspirants, we have to know that the person is in a right state of mind or not. Okay, so both the lady was not criminally responsible for what she exactly did, because it was an disorder. Okay, it was not in India as such. These cases, I'll name it afterwards, but these cases were not in India. They were in different states of in different parts of the world, where bipolar is also considered as a mental illness, and they are given a rehabilitation facilities, not a punishment. And in India we have to prove the person was in unsound mind. So I guess we don't have any cases as such. Even if we might be having any cases, I don't think people might be acknowledging the mental illness, because if the person, the lady, or any the guy, if while the crime happened, he or she might be in a maniac episode, and when the court proceeding was there, he or she might be in a depression episode. So it is very difficult or hard to say if the person is going through this bipolar disorder. It is very how can you be sure that their actions were impulsive? Okay, in bipolar disorder, there are heightened of emotions which a person are not able to control. Let's say if you are getting if as a person, if you are getting angry, you are able to control your anger. You know what exactly is a borderline you should cross of morality and not. But here the emotions are so heightened, the working of prefrontal cortex is so low that the woman or the man with this disorder acts out of impulse. Let's say he or she got angry and took the knife and killed the person. Okay, if you are asking me that how in evidence you might know, then there are assessments and tests which can prove the bipolar disorder. We are not talking about normal human being here, Shailendra. If I clear this part, we are not talking about normal human being doing offend out of impulse, but we are talking about a disorder, a person with disorder doing an offend. And this impulsivity is due to either loss of touch in reality, or either due to very heightened emotions and hormones, which as a human being, obviously no one is able to control. And if we talk about a normal person without a disorder, the impulse a person can control. I hope I got the points, Shailendra. We are talking about extreme impulsivity. Okay, let's discuss now depression. Okay, yes, people. Depression. Can you tell me? Yes, can you tell me symptoms of depression? What you have heard, not just from the PPT, but from what you have heard. That what are symptoms of depression?
Ma'am, anxiety,
Yes. Okay.
ma'am, anxiety, loss of appetite, and health issues.
Okay. Okay. Anyone? Okay, chat box. I've seen. Yes, yes, Bhumi. Right. Loss of appetite and maybe either loss of appetite or either overeating, either sleeping more or sleeping not at all. Okay. Social isolation. Yes. Loss of interest in regular activities, not just your hobbies, but loss of interest even for bathing, even for brushing, which a person used to do each day. Yes, oversleeping, mental disturbance. Yes, anxiety. Okay, yes, I heard the Ashish. I heard that you told me that it is anxiety. Yes, but let's talk that anxiety. How anxiety can be a symptom, but not a driving, not exactly the criteria to know that the person is in depression. Okay, okay. So we sometimes, or many of the time, we think that depression is a sadness. Yes, people, do you agree? We think depression is sadness. Yes. Okay. So it is a big myth that we think that sadness is a depression. Sorry, depression is sadness. But what exactly happens that sometime in severe depression, there can be explode of emotions, there can be explode of impulse. It is not always a person will lock himself and stay in a singular place, but depression can also cause a outburst of emotions or let's say impulse. Severe depression I'm talking about, not the starting stage. Okay. Depression has many symptoms such as loss of appetite, either loss of appetite, either overeating, loss of interest in daily activities such as keeping yourself clean, bathing, brushing. Okay, isolation can also is also a symptom of depression. But I want to clear that every person who isolates himself or herself doesn't mean the person is going through depression. It can be a different disorder as well. Okay, so symptoms we can you can see looked upon in ICD 11 or DSM 5. If you want to, as a person want to know more about depression, please don't Google it, please don't ask to an AI, but you can look upon or read from ICD 11 and DSM 5 for the symptoms of depression. Okay, same as schizophrenia, same as bipolar, there is a spectrum of depression. There are sub disorders like let's say schizophrenia, there is also paranoid schizophrenia, there can also be catatonic schizophrenia. Okay, in bipolar then there can be many sub disorders connected with it. Same depression, there can be many sub depressions connected with it. So we'll focus on main point that depression sometimes in severe cases, not the starting, but very intense or very severe cases, there are violent outbursts. If a person is not diagnosed, I repeat, if the person is not diagnosed at right time, if the person, let's say male or female, if the person is not diagnosed at the right time, he or she is living in a social environment, and if he or she is having a severe depression, there can be a violent outburst leading to murder, leading to any accident, leading to very much violent crimes. Okay, depression is less risky than schizophrenia or substance abuse. Depression is mostly, not majorly, we can see in people who have offended. Let's say the probability of depression, severe depression causing crime are very less. But yes, it is a criteria we can consider that offender might be having, maybe might be having a severe depression. Not every criminal, but the person who are already diagnosed with depression. Okay. So there was this, like, we can say that a depressed man has high risk of violent crime than general population. Okay, this is not a generalized statement, but yes, as a forensics aspirant, we have to consider this point when we are doing a criminal profiling, or we are doing a profiling, that a depressed man can also considered as high risk of violent crime, or can also considered as a suspect. Yes. Okay, we'll talk about personality, different types of personality disorders. Not personality as such, we bluff about that the person is very antisocial, the person is very narcissist. Yes, this is a very social media kind of thing, which is not true at all. That every person who shows traits such as antisocial traits, narcissist traits, psychopathic traits, sociopathic traits are always criminals or are always suffering from mental disorder, which is so not true. Yes, we have heard, right? We have heard the term antisocial and narcissism a lot today in social media, let's say Instagram, YouTube. Yes, people, we hear, everyone might be hearing. Yes, I want to know how many people have heard the terms like antisocial and narcissism. Okay, 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 okay. So I would really like to clear the myth today itself, now itself, that social media, yes, they are telling that some people might be having traits of antisocial, narcissism. Every person has traits of narcissism, but at what level we cannot diagnose. Only a psychologist or a clinical psychologist can diagnose that if the person is with high traits of narcissism. Not every person, let's say, and high traits of narcissism or antisocial or any kind of personality might be going through the disorder. Disorder is a very extreme level. It is a very extreme level which a person is not able to go back to a normal state. Okay. Traits we all have. Let us consider, if I am telling that my friend is a narcissist, which is a very wrong statement, because the person is not been diagnosed, first of all. Second of all, they are having traits like, let's say if narcissism, then the person is very much selfish, then it is not called that the person is not should not be called as narcissism, okay, narcissist person or any narcissistic personality, because each individual, each human being are having different traits of these personalities. It depends on which trait overpowers the personality. The personality is change. Personality, we can say narcissist personality or antisocial personality. Okay, this is. I hope this is clear that one should not point out anyone. Yes. Okay. And second thing, now the spectrum goes very high when it comes to disorder. Disorder is an extreme level. Now, can you differentiate between the social media, the personality, and the disorder? Yes, people. Can you differentiate now? Am I audible, people?
Yes,
If
ma'am.
you're not able to different, okay, thank you. Okay, so there are different disorders. Let's say antisocial personality disorder, who have no empathy, who lies, who is violent, who does violence. They have no remorse. This kind of personality is mostly the people who offend. If we say if any person who is offending with this kind of personality, they mostly stay hidden, isolated. Or let's say any cyber crime which happens, if the personality, antisocial personality offenders are involved, then they mostly would be attacking through any screen, social media, digital platform, because they are not so social. Yes, can you get the point, people? Yes. Okay, I hope everyone got the point. Okay, then there is borderline personality disorder. Emotionally, they are chaotic. They are very impulsive, outbusting. They are very manipulative as well. If the impulse are not satisfied, they can go through any extent, even self harm. The people who are having borderline personality disorder. Okay, okay. I'll just move further. Just a second. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Let's see. There people who are antisocial personality, who has antisocial personality disorder. Okay, and borderline personality disorder, they come under cluster B of disorders. There are cluster A, cluster B, and cluster C, different types of personality. And if the personality is overpowering, then it turns into disorder. If the personality, there are diagnoses which I cannot discuss right now. It will take really 2 or 3 days, I guess. But if the person with cluster B personality are diagnosed with disorders, then they can be antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. So cluster B includes this kind of disorders. Okay. So what exactly personality disorder, we can say, includes? So they are violent, as I told. They break law. Antisocial means people who don't exactly follow law. Are they or are they are very repulsive towards the law or following of any kind of authoritative power. So they mostly don't seem to fit in the society. They don't seem to obey the society. They have authoritative issues. They are mostly law breaking. If this kind of, if you see any personalities which around you, then we can consider them in an antisocial personality. Okay, we cannot tag them, but yes, antisocial personality who don't exactly believe in law. Okay, disorder is something when a person does does violence, or uh, let's say if the person with antisocial personality disorder are not able to control their thinking pattern, or are not able to change their thinking pattern, they are very much stiff for their thinking pattern of anti-social rules, not following the rules. Yes, these individuals often are seen or can be diagnosed during their childhood. Okay, there is a disorder which is called conduct disorder, which can be seen in children. Children who are very not naughty, not mischievous, but children with extreme uh, authoritative issues such as they fight, they beat someone up, they are always not on time, or they break law as a children, then it is considered as conduct disorder in children. But when they are, mostly the conduct disorder children are mostly grew up, and the disorder, the antisocial personality disorder is being seen when they are in their adulthood. Yes. Can anyone guess the name of the charming person? I The photo of such a charming person. Yes. Who is he? Can anyone guess? He looks handsome,
Ted
right?
Bundy.
Yes.
He's Ted Bundy.
Yes. Yes. He's Ted Bundy. He looks handsome. Girls, guys, do you think he looks handsome, charming? If you haven't known he was Ted Bundy, he is a handsome guy, right? Okay. Yes. So Ted Bundy, we can say he, yes, deadly for sure. Yes. Okay. Ted Bundy, we can consider him in ASPD, antisocial personality disorder. He, when you see the case file, you can, as a many psychologists have told him psychopath, but yes, it is, uh, when we see his childhood, when we see or uh, analyze the childhood as well as the adulthood, he doesn't come in psychopath. He mostly comes under antisocial personality. Also, we can consider him as antisocial personality. He was having an antisocial personality disorder. Same goes for Charles Manson. Have you heard about Charles Manson? Yes, people. These are some cases you can look upon to if you want to know more about person with antisocial personality disorders. Charles Manson, he was having a cult. He was also considered as an antisocial personality. Then John Wayne Gacy, he was a clown who killed boys, 33 boys. Yes, they are very cold and manipulative. They have traits like they are very cold and manipulative. Yes. Anyone? John Gacy? You can, if you don't know these cases, you can look upon to, you can take a screenshot. I'll give the names as well. Okay, let's move further. Okay, borderline personality disorder. What exactly is borderline personality disorder? So, borderline personality disorder are when the emotions are very intense. There is very much impulsivity. The person who are suffering or who are having this kind of disorders don't have any kind of stable relationship. They are always in a toxic one. Let's say pull and push kind of relationships. Okay, we are not generalizing every relationship or every person as personality disorder, personality borderline personality disorder, but I am giving us, let's say, a symptoms which can be considered, but only a psychologist can diagnose if the person is going through a border personality disorder, a borderline personality disorder or not. Yes, but they have this kind of traits, such as they self harm themselves, they manipulate themselves. If a person, let's say, a person is in a relationship which is very unhealthy, toxic, and the person manipulates the relationship by telling, if you don't do this, I will suicide. If you don't do that, if you don't stay, I will kill myself or I will do a self harm. Mostly, person with borderline personality disorder don't suicide, they don't have suicidal tendency, they just want control. Okay, they have anger issues, they have anger outbursts. Okay, in this criteria we mostly see female as a borderline personality disorder offenders. The probability in the gender we can see females. Okay, there are three cases we can see here. Ellen Hurons, she was from Florida. She actually killed 7 men. Her story was that she was being abused, or If I remember clearly, she was being raped and she wanted a revenge. Uh, she killed 7 men who were attracted towards her. Okay, she was not considering male. She was considering male as someone uh, not friendly, or let's say the male as a hate complexion. Like she was having so much hate towards male. Okay. Then we can see Jeffrey Dahmer. Yes, Jeffrey Dahmer. People who know Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer, I guess. I'm sorry,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
mispronouncing the name. Yes, Jeffrey. Yes, okay, that's nice. You can see a Netflix series on him, Jeffrey Dahmer. Yes, he was a cannibal killer. He used to kill boys, guys, lured them in, and then kill them out of impulsivity, out of emotions, out of control, because he didn't want them. He didn't want the person like to lose the person. If you have seen the series, yes. Then there was Christian Gilbert, a nurse who killed their patients. Okay, these are three cases which you can look upon to if you want to really know what when the offenders are having borderline personality disorders, how they offend, and what are their psychology. Yes. Then we come here as substance abuse and crime. Okay, substance abuse is very common. If we see in Western world, even if we see here in India, yes, substance abuse is very common. Let's say it is alcohol, let's say it's drug, it is ganja, charas, yes. So it is then seen that there are a lot of crimes, even if they are not very much heinous but less. We can see that there are lots of crime due to substance abuse, let's say alcohol, drugs, even in children to adult, we can see this spectrum. So the stat actually tells that 30% of men in prison have or had alcohol abuse, and 60% of the women has drug abuse. The women who are already in jail, who are already convicted, it is very much we can say it is very much prominent in Western world. But if we see that in even if we see or we considered that in our Indian society as well, there are many people who break traffic rules, who go through accidents, who are who does domestic abuse, domestic violence, as well as rape. They, most of them are a drug abuser. Yes, do you agree? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So what exactly? Okay. So what exactly drug does? A drug causes an imbalance in emotion, an imbalance in control of their impulses. Okay, we have talked about narco. If people remember that in narco we talked that the drug sodium pentothal, when it was induced, the person was not able to lie, because the prefrontal cortex or the control of the prefrontal cortex was less. So same, while alcohol, while drugs, the prefrontal cortex, which is very much essential to take right decisions, to control your impulses, it is very much needed. And while alcohol is, when the person is on high on alcohol, drugs, a person is not able to do a control, an impulse control or an emotional control. So crime happens. Yes, okay. I hope I'm clear. Okay. There, if we see that same as a psychologist or as a psychology person or even as a forensics aspirant, if you see a pattern that in society, in our society, people mostly avoid, people mostly ignore, or people don't consider their emotions, their urges, don't resolve them, and they go into any kind of alcohol abuse, drug abuse, yes, just to ignore what their exact emotions are, to resolve them. Yes, even cigarette smoking, chain smoking, Yes, people, do you agree? For a minute, for a short span of time, we all want to ignore our emotions. We don't want to feel them and we don't want to resolve them. That time, many of us, not just us, but the society itself, they try to abuse substance. Even if they don't try to abuse substance, they just dump their emotional baggages in their subconscious mind unconsciously, which leads to unhealthy relationship. They are not able to resolve their issues. They go to stress, they go through anxiety. Do you agree this is the reason, this is the prominent or baseline reason of everything what is happening in our society? Do you agree, guys? Yes, GP. Okay, do you guys agree? I want to know each and everyone's point of view. Yes, GP, you can speak up. Yes, people. I really want to know, do you see through the lenses of a, let's say, as a forensics expert or even a psychologist or even a normal person, that the root cause of any crime, anything what is happening in the world, is that we don't resolve our own emotions? Yes, Diti, do you want to speak? Were you able to hear, guys?
No, ma'am.
Now, now am I audible? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope it was not because of my network issues. I guess. Okay. So I was telling that as a forensics aspirant, as a human being, he or she who wants to find out the root cause or a reason that why our society is such. We see that our own emotions, we are not. Okay, are you able? Am I audible now? Please, can anyone tell me that how much you have heard? Uh, Actually, I've repeated twice and thrice. I just don't want to waste any more time because we have a lot to discuss today. Yes. Can anyone tell? Kanish, can you tell me what you have heard? Okay, I'll just repeat quickly that as an aspirant, as a human being, we see that emotions, not solving our emotions, not resolving our emotions, not accepting our emotion can cause many things in the society, disruption in our society, such as crime, such as substance abuse, such as bad relations, such as uh, l- minute, even minute things like stress or anxiety. Yes. Okay, we'll move further. Yes, there was there are many cases you can note down, as well as I will forward it to Nitish sir, that you will get in the group. But yes, there were cases such as Miami cannibal attack, where a man got high on bath salts and he actually ate a victim's face. So drugs can lead to a very kind of state where you are lost touch in reality. But this is not something which our law considered as to lessen any punishment, because the person, any person who is taking drugs, who is abusing alcohol, has a sense to not get intoxicated, has a choice to not get intoxicated. So it is not considered in unsound mind or it is not considered in lessening of any kind of punishment. Okay. Then there was Dale Nelson and Chandru case from India as well, where the person injected his friend with drugs which led to death. Okay, let's move further. Okay, there are many impulse control disorders. This impulse control disorders can be related to the disorders we talked about earlier. It can relate to schizophrenia, it can relate to borderline, it can relate to bipolar. Yes. So, impulse control disorders are disorders where people are not able to control their impulses, such as killing someone, such as stealing something, such as putting things on fire, such as beating someone. So what exactly happens that people, they have impulse. Normal people who have impulse, they are able to control at a range, like at a, a typical, we can say a range of emotions can be controlled. Our impulses can be controlled to an extent, but sometimes as a normal person we beat someone, yes, out of rage. But this is not, we are talking about impulse control, we are talking about extreme level. Like, let's say if you have seen Dexter. If you have seen Dexter, he was a psychopath. He was not able to control the impulse to kill, to murder. If we go to disorders such as pyromania, where people fire up houses, fire up different kinds of stuff, they have an they have an urge to fire up, they have an impulse to fire up, and which is due to a biological, which can be due to biological, as well as if they are giving a reward system, they are choosing the urges and the impulses as a reward system or satisfaction. Sometimes these impulses give, even if setting something on fire gives them sexual satisfaction. Sometimes stealing can give you a sexual satisfaction, not you but the people who, with impulse control. Okay. So that is, every time it is not that a person with impulse control disorder or impulse control should have sex, or they actually relate their urges to some kind of phenomena such as letting things on fire. It gives them a satisfaction which is similar to sexual satisfaction. Kleptomania, let's say stealing, when it is done, if a uh, person is getting an impulse to, if a person stole, okay, let's say a normal person stole something, he or she got an satisfaction, a thrill. Yes, a thrill to do it again. The person does again and again and again, and then it is, the person is addicted to the stealing, the feeling of stealing, the thrill, so much so that it can lead to an impulse control disorder, which is also named as kleptomania. So the starting point is always in your control, in a person's control. Okay. Even conduct disorders, like conduct those disorders are only seen in kids and teenage, not in adults. So they bully, they do cruel things, they fight, they beat someone else. So kids with conduct disorders has a starting point. Every impulse control disorders has a starting point when a person haven't controlled their urges, and which leads them to an addiction of the thrill, addiction of the reward system, or addiction of the satisfaction they get through doing such things. Then, at a certain level, it turns into disorder, where they are not able to control their urges or impulses anymore. Okay, I've discussed kleptomania. You can kleptomania. Yes, kleptomania is urge to steal again and again and again. We are talking about a level where the person already went, okay, where the person is no more able to control their urges. We are not talking about the starting point. We are talking about when the person is at a level where he or she is not able to control their urges, and which is leading them to crime, to doing crime. Yes, stealing is a crime, but where the stealing is at a level where it is considered under a law of society. Stealing a pencil, which we as a society won't consider as a crime, or we cannot consider to give a punishment so much so. But if we think that the person starts with small things, and it can lead to a great extent of stealing. Okay. A kleptomania can also be a symptom, or let's say trait of a mental illness such as depression, bipolar, eating disorder. Yes, it can be a trait or it can be a symptom of other disorder, disorders or illnesses. It is not always about money. I repeat, it is not always about money. It is about the satisfaction, the urges they fulfill, the thrill they get, which which is addictive, which they have already have the addiction of. They are addicted to the thrill, the satisfaction, the gratification, the reward system. They are already addicted. It is same as drugs. Yes, people, can you relate that it is same as doing drugs? Okay, sexual disorders and crime. Yes, I repeat same. Okay, this, I guess people here are very mature enough and are able to understand what I'm speaking. Okay, many of people in society are addicted to porn. Why? Not because they want to see them, but they get a kind of satisfaction, a sexual satisfaction, a reward, a gratification out of it. But when there is a starting point, even if it is masturbation or let's say having sex, if there is a starting point, if you are only thriving for sexual gratification and only satisfying your urges, it leads to an addiction of the thing. Even if it's, yes, due to, it can be due to lack of knowledge, yes, but even a normal person can be addicted to this kind of urges, and which can lead them to an addiction where it is considered as sexual disorders. Can you understand now that why people, men or anyone, rape? Do you understand now? It is an addiction of not something materialistic, but your own hormones or neurotransmitters. See, when a person gets satisfaction, sexual satisfaction or gratification or a reward after doing a certain act, sexual act, if it is done in a frequency, if it is abused, like it is done very frequently, it can lead to addiction of it. If it addiction is not stopped, then addiction can lead to disorder. Okay, so there are many kinds of, let's say, sexual disorder, where we can see pedophilia, necrophilia. Pedophilia is something you can define as sexual attraction or urges towards children. Necrophilia we can define as sexual urges or gratification a person gets from a corpse or someone who is already dead. Okay, so often it is noticed that personality disorders which we have discussed, let's say antisocial personality disorder, Ted Bundy we can consider, Jeffrey Dahmer we can consider, coexist with sexual disorders as well. There is, we cannot draw a line that, oh, Jeffrey Dahmer was having only sexual disorder, or Ted Bundy was having only sexual disorder. No, they were having both antisocial personality disorder, also sexual disorder. If you see, if you have seen that both of them were getting gratification either out of rape or either out of cutting the bodies. Yes, or eating the bodies. Yes, Jeffrey Dahmer did eat the parts of the people. I'm sorry if anyone, uh, it is feeling very weird to people if I'm talking this way, but this is a truth. Okay, So victims are usually vulnerable population which are not able to resist, or which are who victims are who not able to uh, be authoritative. Let's say they are not able to stand up. So there is a different theory, or we can say study, of victimology. So there we can see that mostly victims are someone who are very vulnerable, uh, or who are uh, who are not very speakable, or who don't take stand as usual. Okay.